I have a supervisor who does not like me and likes it less when I get on well with coworkers. Yesterday I was yelled at for having a short conversation with some people from a different area, but all departments work in a big open warehouse together, just in different zones. And today during our pre-shift briefing our supervisor said, I want less time wasting with chat. You're not here to talk to each other, you're here to slash specific task. Okay, no problems. I went to my car, grabbed the notebook I keep in the glove box for accidents, emergencies, etc., and have been holding up little signs to communicate with others. Part of our job is to unload trucks from our loading dock. I made myself up an A4 sign to hang around my neck that says, hi, I hope you're having a nice day. Supervisor said I'm not allowed to waste time chatting. Have a nice day. My supervisor is furious. Just after lunch one of the drivers arrived with his own sign around his neck that says, hi. Any new stupid rules? Employee worked at a farming equipment manufacturer. It would reach temperatures sometimes above 100°F in the summer. No one likes to work in that kind of heat, so the special employee thought he would be smart and get out of working during the hottest part of the day, but still earn enough to live on. Employee found a doctor to write a note saying that he couldn't work in temperatures over 90°F. This worked well for him for a few weeks. He would work about 4 hours and say it was too hot and go home. This left manager in a tough spot with one less person for half of the day, but knew that he had to comply with employees' restrictions. Manager installed thermometers around the shop. Manager of course does not want employee to have a health problem, so as soon as one of the thermometers reached 90, employee was sent home. It turned out that it was getting to 90°F about 2 hours into employee's shift, not 4. This put employee in a pinch, because now he wasn't earning enough to live on. Now employee had a couple choices. He could find another job that was cooler, maybe a part-time job in the afternoon that would be done in air conditioning. Or he could admit that he just didn't want to work in the heat, but it wasn't really causing any health problems. In the end employee went back to the doctor and got the note removed from his file. He was now able to work full shifts alongside his coworkers. I really thought this guy was going to get into trouble about this, but he didn't. He was sitting in my row in the window seat and had repeatedly reported the kid sitting behind him kicking his seat back, but no amount of harsh words from the stewardess to the adult woman sitting in the middle seat next to the unruly kid had any effect on making the woman control the kid. The man asked for a different seat, but the plane, Southwest, was full and all seats occupied. The guy stood and went back to the row behind the unruly kid and asked a passenger sitting in the middle seat if the man would temporarily let him sit there until he could remedy a problem he was having with the kid constantly kicking his seat back. The passengers in the near rows were all aware of my complaints, so the accommodating passenger willing complied. The irritated passenger sat in the middle seat behind the adult woman and immediately began kicking the seat back of the uncooperative female adult sitting next to the kid, and she immediately pushed the call button, and it seemed a while before the stewardess responded to her call. In a loud screaming voice she blasted the stewardess and the guy doing the kicking, and the stewardess just smiled at her and walked away. The guy who had loaned his seat laughed loudly and uttered something unprintable which made the woman madder. Then other adult passengers began calling her insulting names, and she shut up. The man sitting behind her continued kicking her seat back and pulling down on the top of it. I had expected her to argue and make an ugly scene, but she just slunk down into her seat and tried to hide as she received her treatment. The guy doing the kicking leaned over and asked her if she was enjoying her ride and of being made a fool of, but she didn't respond. More passengers laughed. He asked if she was going to control her kid the rest of the flight, and she screamed out that she would. The man thanked the passenger who had loaned the middle seat, and the man resumed his window seat. There were no more complaints about the kicking kid. So I do motion graphics for a living. Basically it's graphic design that is animated for TV, movies, and commercials. In general there isn't a lot of room for malicious compliance because there is fierce competition between studios. Most of the time, if there is any malicious compliance at all, it's to back off and let the client go to another cheaper studio on purpose, because you know that the other studio is going to F everything up and the client will then be forced to come back to you to fix it. This story is a little different. So I was working at this studio as a freelancer pitching on a job to do the opening titles for a news channel in Saudi Arabia. So I turn in my designs and the client absolutely loved them. Seriously, I've been doing this job for almost 20 years and have rarely had a client react so positively. So he wanted to move forward with animation immediately. He put us into contact with his assistant, who I will now refer to as the ass, who would be overseeing the next stage of the project. This guy was nice enough, but unfortunately for everyone involved he was one of those people that just had to have his stamp on everything. So I start animating. Things are going smoothly, then the bud starts making changes. And not subtle changes. Obviously we advised against making these changes because the client loved the original design so much, not to mention the fact that to make these changes I would have to be staying late, as a freelancer meant 1.5 times pay and double pay on weekends. But this guy wasn't having it. He felt that he knew what the client really wanted and told us to do our jobs, make the changes, and that money wasn't an issue. Enter malicious compliance. We made the changes. I was working around the clock, didn't leave the studio for 4 days straight at one point, just taking naps on the couch weekends, everything. I didn't care, because I was making craploads of overtime and weekend pay. 1 week of this was putting almost 10k in my pocket. I explained the situation to my lady, and she was super understanding, and would actually come hang out at the studio with me. So anyway, the changes kept coming: redesign the logo, change all the colors, remove the tetchy globe. That was the main element in the original designs. In the end the job took 3 months, and looked like a great big pile of steaming crap that but thought looked amazing. It was delivery day, we send everything to the ass, and for the first time but shows the client. And the crap hit the fan so hard we felt it from Saudi Arabia. Long story short, the butt got fired on the spot. The client squashed the whole thing and wanted to start over from scratch, which meant a whole new round of pitching. Guess who won that pitch too? FML. So I ended up working on the same project for another 3 months, only this time it was directly with the client. I work on major construction projects, and the powers that be are always looking to optimize costs, pay less for the same stuff, and they rarely pay attention to the old adage of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So, recently, we had a large amount of pipe that needed to be moved out to site. The normal way to do this is to collect the pipe from the supplier, move it to a laydown storage yard, and then bundle it up into smaller loads that can be sent out to the construction site. You will see why this is if you read further. In this instance though, Dave the clueless engineer had other plans. In Dave's infinite wisdom, the pipe would be moved directly from the supplier to the right of way row, and would thus save time, minimize damage, no double handling, and all of the extra transport costs. I strenuously objected, because Dave's plan was about as sensible as installing a screen door on a submarine to keep the fish out. Needless to say, Dave's plan was accepted with enthusiastic acclaim, and Dave got many pats on the back for his thriftiness and cost-saving vision. Yours truly just sighed. Now, in the rural parts of the state, where we are running pipelines, the row is often a dirt track in between fenced-off paddocks where livestock graze, or crops are grown. There is quite limited room to place pipe on the ground, and even less room to maneuver once you add in the vacuum lifter truck required to unload the transport truck. Dave, of course, didn't consider anything I said on this to be pertinent to the matter at hand. So I send out a final "Are you sure?" email to all and sundry. Yes, we are sure, just fine, get it done. Okay then. There are about 30 truckloads of pipe to unload. This cannot all be done in a single day, and so I organize for the first 4 truckloads to be sent out on day -1 along with the vac lifter. Truck turns up at the row and the vac lifter starts unloading pipe and laying it down beside the trench where the pipe would be buried. The pipe is 21 meters, 69 long, or about the same length as the truck. The unloading operations were therefore: move truck into position, stop truck, driver exits vehicle and moves to side of cab, safety regulations. Vac lifter moves into position, picks pipe up, puts pipe down, then moves away. Driver re-enters truck, moves truck 1 truck length along the row. Repeat. By contrast, to unload pipe into a laydown yard, the operations are: move truck into position, Stop truck. Driver exits vehicle and moves to side of cab. Safety regulations. Vac lifter moves into position. Picks pipe up. Puts pipe down into storage pile. Repeat unloading until truck is clear, then moves away. Driver re-enters truck and drives off happily. With all of the F-ing around at the row, unloading 40 lengths of DN 250 pipe, 10 inch, took about 5 hours as opposed to maybe 1 hour for the other option. No big deal. Driver doesn't care, because he gets paid, but the other 3 trucks scheduled for unload can't get in because there's not enough room in the row for them to get past each other, and there's only one vac lifter because the side crew typically don't try to unload 160 lengths of pipe in a day. No big deal. The other truck drivers don't care because they're getting paid too. So now that truck #1 has been unloaded, the driver asks where can he turn around and gets told that there's enough room about 14 kilometers, 8.5 miles, down the row. So off he drives, turns around and then receives a call on his radio when he's about halfway back. Driver #1 has reached his maximum allowable driving hours for the day. This is a legislative requirement and cannot be exceeded for any reason. Driver #1 has to stop his truck and get a federally mandated minimum 10-hour rest period in a room with a bed, not his truck cabin. It's getting dark soon, and driver #2, #3 and #4 are in the same predicament. Our site crew have spare space at their camp and pick up each of the drivers, who each leave their trucks where they are parked and go off to sleep. Next day, same thing. We are a bit more efficient, so we managed to get truck #2 and half of truck #3 unloaded. Driver #1 finally gets past and drives off. His job is done. Day 3, same deal and we clear the remaining loads. Driver #2, #3 and #4 have all had to sleep a second night, and driver #3 and #4 will have to sleep a third. Now, not only has this cluster held up the row operations for 3 days, but contractual trucks have a certain demurrage period. This period is how long the truck will wait to be unloaded and is typically 2 hours. After that, there is a charge per hour. In this case the hourly rate was $130. Driver #1 was held up for 46 hours, $5,980. Driver #2 was held up for 70 hours, $9,100. Drivers #3 and #4 were held up for 94 hours, $24,440. Site crew daily rate for operations, working or idle, $24,000 x 3 equals $72,000. Total for Dave's brainstorm, $111,520. Dave was moved to a less demanding role in line with his experience and skill set. He is no longer in charge of anything, and is back performing the sort of boring work normally assigned to a graduate engineer. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, a like and a comment would mean a lot in YouTube's world. Share with us if you would have done things differently, and don't forget to support the original authors with an upvote. Links are in the description. Peace out, and catch you tomorrow.